All right, you guys, in today's episode, I'm going to be talking with you about this time of year, winter, and why you may or may not be feeling a little bit less motivated, why it might be hard sticking to some of your goals and some of your wellness habits that work for you in the spring and summer, but maybe are just not working and supporting you now. I'm also going to give you a few tips and tricks that you can try out this time of year from an Ayurvedic and traditional medicine standpoint that might help you get over that hump, get you through the winter, and then carry you into spring so that you can get back to some of the things that were working for you before. So head on over to today's episode and we'll talk about it all. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Arden Yoga and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Kira Whitaker. Welcome back, guys. This will air the second week of January 2024. Right now it is, I think, the 5th, so I'm still in the first week. But I wanted to talk today about something that has come up really consistently and frequently lately with my clients. Some of my really close friends and I have had these conversations. And then also it's something that I as well, I don't want to say struggling with because it's something that's been on my radar before this time of year, but it's definitely something that feels top of the mind. It feels relevant. And that is having a winter desire and pull to not be as productive as you do in other seasons. So many people that I'm in community with, even people online, when I've done polls on Instagram and kind of asked where people are at, this has been something that's been coming up. And so many people that I've talked to have said things like, I'm not overly happy right now, but I feel content. I just want to be lazy. My energy feels down. I don't want to eat this right now. I feel like this, but I know I should be doing this. And that's why I want to have a conversation with you guys today about this. So a conversation that I had the other night while we were having dinner with some friends, it was actually one of my best friend's husbands, one of my husband's best friends. So this is coming from a male. We were talking about this topic specifically. And I see this year after year in the health and wellness space with my clients of coming out of, a year. So right now we just came out of 2023 and the advertising and marketing world tells us new year, new you, right? Now, in this moment, in the beginning of January, is the time where you need to change your habits, push harder, try new things, add. And I'm here to tell you that if you are someone that feels very resistant to that, even if it's not a conscious resistance to that, even if it's something subconsciously or something in you that just does not feel pulled to that, it is okay. There is a reason why. Now, where I live, it is getting dark. I'm outside of Nashville, Tennessee. It is getting dark at 4:30 in the afternoons. When I get up at 6:20, a lot of times it's still dark-ish. And it is also consistently cold. We do have some days where it's like sunny and 60, but it's wintertime here. We get all 4 seasons sometimes in a month in Tennessee. And there are things from a traditional wellness and medicine standpoint that indicate to us that we should treat our health, wellness, and mindset differently season to season. Now, that's not really what we do in mainstream wellness and medicine, in Western wellness and medicine. You do this all year long. You are consistent. This is your routine. This is what you eat. we do the smoothie, we do the salad, we do the poke bowl, poke, I don't know how you say it actually. And that is not the way that in Ayurvedic medicine, which is the sister science to yoga, Chinese medicine. I'm not an expert in Chinese medicine at all, but I have colleagues that are acupuncturists and Chinese medicine doctors that have told me this for years that I see as a client, patient, and then I'm also friends and colleagues with a lot of them. And so there are aspects of this viewpoint from a Western medicine wellness standpoint that conflict with some of the ideas and theories and practices of traditional medicine. So let's talk about that, because as I go through this, my goal and my hope is that if you are in the camp of people that I was talking about that are feeling pulled in a direction that's not the most productive right now, pulled in a direction to eat differently and move differently and sleep and rest in different ways than you do in July, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not the problem. There's nothing wrong with you. It makes total sense that you would feel pulled in a different direction. So I'm going to kind of pull a little bit of my ideas here from more of a Ayurvedic standpoint. Again, I mentioned that's the sister science to yoga therapy. And I'm not going to go into detail because I would need to do an entire episode on all of the different types of doshas and really do a little dive into the science of Ayurveda. So I'm not going to do that today. But in Ayurvedic medicine, you look at it through a lens of different seasons, if you will. Okay. And so the doshas and the types of kind of that we go through these things, and it's your doshas are like your constitutional makeup, and there's different seasons, and you care for yourself and you shift certain aspects of your wellness routine and habits according to the seasons, because if you're not aligned with the natural course of seasons, then you're going to be unaligned. So we don't have to. But the idea is that if you align and shift those things to complement and work with and within the natural order of seasons, you're going to feel better. If you don't make those shifts, you're going to be in direct conflict with the natural order of the seasons. So, and that's, again, guys, if you're an Ayurvedic expert and you're listening to this, I know that I just went like the highest bird's eye view of that breakdown ever. So I get it. I know that was not providing a ton of information at all, but I'm not doing that today. It's not the point. All right. So a conversation that I've had with a few friends and clients, and an idea that I have brought forth, and this is again just a lens for you to look through. It's not saying change anything if you don't really align or even feel anything in common with this conversation. Totally fine. If it is you, I want to throw out this idea. What if you don't feel overly energized right now? What if you don't feel overly motivated to start something new that requires a lot of emotional and physical and energetic energy to be put forth, because it's in direct conflict with what you as a human being, as a mammal, and as someone who is a mind, body, and spirit? What if all of those things are conflicting with those things? So if we look at nature, I'm looking out of one of my windows right now. As many of you know, I live on a farm. Everything is brown. Most of the trees, except for the cedar trees, are completely bare. There is no grass. We are hauling in round bales for our horses and cow about once a month right now because there is nothing growing. Their hair has gotten thicker because they're sleeping more. They are eating way more because they're having to put on more fat because they are resting more, and they're mammals, and they're going to not have as many nutrients in nature. So we're having to feed them more. They're going to put on some pounds because winter's coming, right? Well, I'm a mammal, right? I live in the same natural environment as them. What if you're supposed to rest a little more this time of year? What if that smoothie is in direct conflict with what your body needs this time of year? What if you don't need the cold in the salads, in the freezing things, in the iced coffees, everybody? I'm not shaming you when you drink your iced coffee, but I'm just saying, what if you need warmth? What if you need foods that are easier to digest because our mobility isn't maybe what it is in the summer when we're walking and hiking and doing all of these things? What if you need more root vegetables that are in season? What if you need hot teas in hot coffee? What if we shifted the way that we care for ourselves in the winter into a wellness practice that is focused on rest, restoration, reflection? It complements the season and the weather and the rest of the external world that we live in. Because most of us that are feeling like I talked about earlier are going through winter right now, a completely different season, but you're expecting to have the outcomes and the feelings and the productivity of spring. Spring, everything blooms. Everything's coming alive. Things are getting warmer. Things are noisier outside. Birds are chirping. The bugs are coming out. It's lively. So our natural spirit and our natural order is obviously energetically going to feel more aligned with that. But a lot of us are expecting our bodies and our minds and our spirit to feel springish, that energy in the month of winter, when that's not how we're supposed to perform. That's not the season for this. I believe in God. If you don't, that's fine. But God created 4 seasons, right? So we might feel different. Our bodies and spirit might be called and pulled to different things per different season. Okay. So with that being said, I want to invite you to try a few things. Okay. A few things this time of year. Okay. If you are feeling a little bit off with your wellness routine that worked for you in the spring and summer and maybe even fall, if you're not feeling as aligned with that right now and you're beating yourself up and your head voice is saying, or bully voice is saying that you're lazy and you've lost it and there's something wrong with you, maybe tell the bully voice to take a back seat and just try a couple of things that I am going to list. Okay. Number 1 is swapping maybe one of your cold meals a day for something warmer. So if you're somebody who gets a salad every day for lunch, maybe you get a vegetable soup. You can add protein to it. This is not about the meat component, but my point is still getting your vegetables, still getting that fiber, all of the components and the things that we want in our salad, but maybe we switch that to a soup. Same thing for dinner. If you are doing a bunch of vegetables as your side that are not really as in season, maybe we switch to some seasonal like root vegetables. Okay. Thinking about how we can shift some of our intake to be a little bit more aligned with the season, to bring heat to the body, to bring warmth to the body, to bring comfort to the body. I mentioned earlier, if you're doing iced coffees, maybe just this time of year, you switch some of those out for hot coffee or tea. Thinking about ways that we can shift some of our intake, some of our nourishment to be a little bit more on that warmth. And I don't want to say heartier, but definitely more warmth. Okay. Another thing is with your movement. Your energy may have shifted right now. If you are somebody who does more, like I do a lot more outdoor walks and stuff in the summertime. When it's wet and cold, I just don't want to do it. That's okay. It's not forever. It's for a few months. Maybe you do more low impact movement for the next month or two. Maybe you add in more resistance training. Maybe because this could be a season of going inward and more reflection because we're not in spring yet. We're not producing. We're not blooming, right? Maybe you add in a little bit more of a reflective practice, maybe journaling. Maybe this is a season where you play around with a mindfulness practice like meditation. I love guided breath work. I think meditation can be, obviously it's very helpful, but for some people going from zero to trying to dive into a meditation practice and sit there with their own thoughts can be a bit too noisy and chaotic. I love guided breath work because it can bridge that gap for people. And if you need it, we have breath work videos in the yoga library. So that's something that maybe you shift. Again, these things are not forever. It's just saying if what you are trying to do now that worked for you in a past season, meaning specifically like spring or summer, isn't working, then let's just play around with switching some things out and see if it helps. Sleep. Because our circadian rhythms are going to shift a bit because when the sun is coming up and down, right? Maybe this time of year, you're like, I'm feeling like I need an extra hour of sleep and I don't know why, because I'm always good on 7.5 hours, or I'm always good with 6 and that just feels good, or 8. Guys, I have been sleeping closer to 9 hours. And when I say 9, there's been some times where it's like more like 10, just because my body's tired this time of year. My body is so hypersensitive, and I'm so hypersensitive to my body. One, because of my history with body dysmorphia and all of those things, but also now in my current life, I've practiced yoga and breath work and mindfulness for over a decade consistently. And so my husband always jokes around with me. He's like, if you get a hangnail in your sleep, Kira, I notice everything in my body. And so I have noticed that I'm just a little bit more tired this time of year. And that's okay. So maybe you play around with adding in a little bit more sleep. Maybe you just surrender to the fact that your body, like every other mammal this time of year, wants a little bit of sleep, a little bit more. Okay. So that's something you can also add in. You might also notice this time of year, I've definitely had these conversations with some of my yoga therapy clients. You might notice this time of year that you just feel a little bit drier. And this is another reason why, from kind of an Ayurvedic or traditional medicine standpoint, I said some of those cooling foods will be in direct conflict with what your body needs right now. If your joints feel a little bit or even sound a little bit noisier, kind of like those Tin Man joints. If your skin is a lot drier, my lips have been so dry the past month. You can, one, gently and maybe decrease. If you're a dry brusher that dry brushes all the time, you might want to cut back just a little. But for lymphatic movement in the body, you can do a little bit of dry brushing, but you may want to add in a little bit more water Okay. If you're somebody who likes their water ice cold this time of year, maybe do room temperature. You could even do lukewarm, but keep up with your hydration. We've got our heat on inside. Okay. So that's going to suck some of the moisture out of the air. And it's just a drier season. Again, I'm looking outside and the trees are bare out at our house. Things are just drier. All right. There's not as much warmth and moisture in the environment. So thinking about, I don't care what you put on your skin, if it's lotion or oil, whatever works better for you. Obviously, I'm not a fan of a lot of perfume in your wellness things because it's an endocrine disruptor. But dry brushing for lymphatic movement, but don't overly dry brush this time of year because the skin can be more sensitive because it's drier. Hydrate for that. Let's maybe not do as much ice water, maybe the lukewarm or room temperature, and then amp up your external moisturizers to support the skin, which is the body's largest organ. So if it's really dry this time of year, it's telling you something. The environment is drier, the body's going to be drier. So we want to support it through the things that I listed before. Okay. And then sticking to a routine. So even though I said that your routine might be different, it doesn't mean that you need to put yourself through the emotional turmoil of just yo-yoing all day long and just different whatever. Okay. We can still have somewhat of a routine. My point to all this is just if you are feeling pulled in a different direction in your mind and your body and your spirit than you did in the spring and the summer months and a little bit of fall, then it's okay, but let's switch it up a little bit. So maybe we adopt some of these other things into our routine and then see how that feels. The reason I say don't completely abandon a routine is because it's really hard for me to know what's working and what's making me feel better if I don't implement it consistently and long enough to get some feedback from my body. Okay. So you guys, I'm going to wrap up. This is my, again, mild recommendations, but really more than anything, it's just my invitation for you to be gentle with yourself. If this time of year is just a little bit tougher for you in some of your productivity, some of your wellness routines that typically work for you, even mindset, if you're just feeling a little bit off, if you're just feeling like it ain't working, this isn't it. What I thought was going to be great and what I thought I was about to do and what I thought I was going to carry over from previous months and different months, it's just not hitting right now. It's not you. It's the season. And you're trying to force your body and your brain and your spirit to thrive in spring when it's no longer spring, it's winter. So this is me just saying that you can do it. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just the season, and we can make really small shifts in our health and wellness to acknowledge and honor and support the season that we're in right now. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. Even if this is something that doesn't feel like it applies to you, just think about it. And if you have somebody that you love or you're in relationship with, or even somebody that you work with that is maybe seeming a little bit off, maybe they are somebody who's just feeling a little bit conflicted with where they're at in this season. And so even if it's not you, hopefully listening to this can just give you a little bit of a different view or a different take on this time of year so that you can show empathy and support for somebody that needs it. So if you have any questions, as always, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach out on Instagram. If you're watching on YouTube, you can always comment. Always feel free to email me, info@ardenyoga.com. And until next week, you guys, I will see you later. Bye.